Dear Guy, I have had several days to ponder our discussion of the Saturday before Christmas. Although I have not yet had the opportunity to talk it over with others, I have had second thoughts of my own, and a strong impression I didn't make myself clear as to my real opinions. That day, a prominent and liberal producer, whose motives I do not at all doubt, was quoted as saying to one of us, "Look, you people are simply stubborn and foolish. Regardless of what you think of informing, it has become part of the law. The committee and its requirements are part of our time. They are the law, they are the country, they are the flag. That's the way it is, and those who refuse to recognize this no longer arouse sympathy. They only isolate themselves and prevent their voices from being heard." The more I think of that, the more I disagree with it, and the more puzzled I become about the workings of the mind that produced it. I know and can read the First Amendment as well as anyone else. I know it is the basic law of this country. I know that if it goes, all will go. The Warren Court has carefully and specifically outlined the exact method by which persons can refuse to inform. It is almost as if the court had decided to provide citizens with a textbook on how to avoid turning informer. Thus, the court has presented us with a dilemma that lies at the heart of all philosophies and all religions. The dilemma best symbolized in the Faustian legend, "Yield up your principles, and you shall be rich. Cling to them, and you shall be less prosperous than you presently are." That's the problem. Choice. Not compulsion. Choice. Committee or no committee, law or no law, capitalism or no capitalism, movies or no movies. It is the constant necessity to choose that dogs every action of our lives, every minute of our existences. Who is it, then, who compels us to inform? The committee does not come to us even now and ask us to change our minds and give names and reinstate ourselves. Who is it that asks us to do this? Who is it that denies us work until we seek out the committee and abase ourselves before it? Since it is neither the court, nor the law, nor the committee, the man who compels informing can only be the employer himself. He is the one who urges us to inform. He is the one who withholds work from us until we do. He is, in fact, that same liberal producer who was quoted at our Saturday discussion. It is he, not the committee, who applies the only lash that really stings: economic reprisal. He is the enforcer who gives the committee its only strength and all its victories. Now, mind you, from what I have heard of him, he is a nice man, and I think consultation with him as to tactics of clearance might be helpful. But when he says that the committee's requirements to inform are part of our time, that they are the law and the country and the flag, I think I have spotted the core of what he really said. Disliking the nasty business of blacklisting, but nonetheless practicing it every day of his life, he places upon his country and his flag the blame for moral atrocities that otherwise would be charged directly to himself. And thus, since informing has nothing to do with the law and the country and the flag, and since the necessities of his life as he sees them oblige him to enforce what the committee can never compel, and since without his enforcement the committee would have no power at all, what he actually said is that he is the law and the country and the flag. Thinking back to our producer and his concept of country and flag, I am more than ever bewildered. I wonder if he has really seen this country, if he has really seen these American people, if he has really seen that flag. If he has, and his conclusions are honest, he has seen something I never imagined and don't believe exists. I've delivered newspapers, peddled vegetables, clicked in stores, waited on tables, washed automobiles, picked fruit, hosed down infected cadavers, shoveled sugar beets, iced refrigerator cars, laid rails with a section gang, reported for newspapers, served an 8-year hitch on the night shift of a large industrial plant. I've looked at many American faces. I've seen them as flak burst around them 9,000 feet over Japan. In a slit trench on Okinawa, watching the night sky to see where the next bomb would fall. In an assault boat as they moved toward a beach that tossed more violently than the surf through which they rode. I've counseled with a paroled prostitute on how she might escape the clutches of a policeman who caught her and was stealing half her earnings, and sending his friends to her with courtesy cards that entitled them to take her without pay. I've also counseled with the Secretary of the Air Force, Tom Finletter, on how the Secretary of State might better explain his policy to a perplexed people. I've talked with General MacArthur in Manila and dismissed his fantasy, his warning that an atomic bomb might be developed. I've been asked by Louis B. Mayer why I had no religion, and by a ranking member of the State Department on how I might bring myself to work with all these Hollywood Jews. I've seen American faces in a congregational church in New Hampshire where a colleague and I traveled with a bodyguard of students. I've seen their faces in a miners' union hall in Duluth on a night when the wind off the lake blew the snow so killingly and so deep that cars couldn't be used and everybody walked to the meeting. I've seen their faces in a banquet room of a New York hotel when the American Booksellers Association gave me a National Book Award. And I've seen them again in a jury box, as each of them twice said, "Guilty as charged," while one of them wept as she said it. I've been stripped by Americans and paraded naked with them and before them, and obediently bent over on command to present my anus for contraband clearance. I have lived with and trusted and been trusted by car thieves and abortionists and moonshiners and embezzlers and burglars and Jehovah's Witnesses and Quakers. I've stood on a gray day in the 5th Marine Division Cemetery on Iwo Jima and looked off at the graves of 2,198 Americans. In the center of all those graves, on a slim white pole on a concrete pedestal, flew the American flag. And I swear, it was not the flag of informers. And if I could take a census of all the American faces I have seen, and of all the dead whose graves I have looked on, if I could look at them and ask them one simple question, would you like a man who told on a friend? There would be not one among them that would answer yes. But show me a man who informs on friends, who have harmed no one, and who thereafter earns money he could not have earned before, and I will show you not a decent citizen, not a patriot, but a miserable scoundrel who will, if new pressures arise and the price is right, betray not just his friends, but his country itself. I do not know of one Hollywood informer who acted except under duress and for money. Such men are to be watched. I have been noticing lately that I sneak small naps in the afternoon. It's just a little more difficult to summon the energy to write this letter than it was 5 years ago. Wine goes to my head more quickly than it used to. I walk forward instead of running, and although there is much life in me, much has also gone. To sum up, I evaluate, I calculate my course more thoroughly. There are certain men of my time who have waged great battles and now look out upon the world from hilltops or from peaks, where the horizons must be immensely wider and more revealing. But I, who have only skirmished, stand on a ridge. Lower than I had hoped for, and yet perhaps higher than I deserve. The horizons I had thought to see will probably be denied. I still hope, if I conserve energy and absorb the meaning of my experiences, that I shall be able to ascend one of the middle hills. A little hill, but still a hill, and not a ridge. Be that as it will be, even from my ridge, I look back on 2 decades through which good friends stood together. Moved forward a little. Dreamed that the world could be better and tried to make it so. Tasted the joy of small victories. Wounded each other. Made mistakes, suffered much injury, and stood silent in the chamber of liars. For all this I am grateful. That much I have. That much cannot be taken from me. Barcelona fell, and you were not there, and I was not there. And perhaps, if we had been, the city would have stood, and the world been changed and better. But here we are, and here together we remain, and our city won't fall. And if it should, better that we lie buried in its ruins than found absent a second time.